I was making dinner for everyone when my sister-in-law walked in and said, "Why are you still here? You were just a fling he forgot to kick out." My mother-in-law laughed. "We all agree you're a joke." I put down the knife, wiped my hands, and said, "You'll wish you'd never said that." They had no idea what I'd already put in motion. I was standing in the kitchen of the Reynolds family house in Bossier City, Louisiana, browning butter for the mashed potatoes. The roast was in the oven, carrots already glazed and resting in a warm dish. The table was set. I was cooking for my husband Scott's entire family, his parents, his younger brother Caleb, and Caleb's wife, Elise. We'd been married for 6 years. I thought I'd finally proven myself to these people. I married their son. I bore him 2 children. I supported him through grad school while working 2 jobs. I kept this house standing when Scott got laid off. I did everything. And yet, to them, I was still the outsider. Scott came from old Southern money. His family wasn't exactly rich anymore, but they acted like they were. Elise fit right in. Her daddy owned 3 car dealerships and a lake house. She always had her makeup done, like she was heading to a photo shoot. She hated that Scott married me, a public high school teacher with no family name and a used car. I heard their voices before they even entered the kitchen. Elise's heels clicked loud against the wood floors, and her voice carried like it always did. "Seriously, why is she still here?" Elise said, loud and unbothered, just as she rounded the corner. "You were just a fling Scott forgot to kick out." I turned around, holding the wooden spoon in my hand. Behind her, my mother-in-law Diane walked in and snorted like that was the funniest thing she'd heard all day. "We all agree, honey," Diane said, not even looking at me. "You're a joke." I froze. The potatoes were almost ready to mash. I bought real cream and fresh herbs because Diane once made a comment about my food being too bland. I'd even let Elise bring dessert, knowing she'd show up with something store-bought and pass it off as homemade. I did all of this to keep the peace. But in that moment, something in me broke. Not snapped. Broke. Quiet. Like a small crack in glass you know will spread. I put the spoon down, wiped my hands on the apron slowly, and turned to face them. "You'll wish you'd never said that," I said, calm and low. Elise rolled her eyes. Diane smirked. They had no idea what I'd already put in motion. Because 2 weeks before, I found out something they didn't know I knew. Scott was cheating. With Elise. Yeah, my sister-in-law. I had my suspicions for a while. Scott got weird about his phone, especially around family events. At first, I thought it was some flirty messages with someone from work, but then I saw it. A text preview that popped up while his phone was on the nightstand. "Can't stop thinking about last weekend. We should have married each other instead." The name was saved as Emma Pilates, but that wasn't Emma. That was Elise. I recognized the writing. Elise always forgot to capitalize her IS in texts. It drove me crazy. I didn't confront him right away. I played dumb. I smiled. I let Scott think he was slick. I let Elise come over, drink my wine, and fake laugh at my stories. I started watching everything. Every look between them. Every time they stood too close at Sunday dinner. Every shared joke I wasn't in on. I began documenting. I took photos, videos, logged texts, screen recorded everything from our family group chat. I even tricked Elise into showing me her phone once. Said I needed to call a parent from her phone because mine was charging. I sent a screenshot of her chat with Scott to myself and deleted the evidence. They'd been sneaking off during every single family holiday. They had hotel reservations, receipts, a whole hidden affair, right under everyone's noses. But I didn't just want Scott to suffer. I wanted every person who looked down on me, every person who called me a joke, to feel what I felt. And so I made a plan. I waited. I knew Thanksgiving would bring everyone together. I knew they'd all be here. Scott, Elise, Diane, Caleb, even Scott's dad, Richard, who usually tried to stay out of things. I volunteered to host. Spent a week prepping. And earlier that morning, when Scott went to pick up extra wine, I moved everything into place. The laptop was hooked up to the TV in the living room. A file sat on the desktop labeled Thanksgiving Memories. Now, back in the kitchen, I looked at Diane and Elise. They were still smirking, still enjoying their moment of cruelty. I smiled. "Dinner will be ready in 10, I said and walked out of the room. 10 minutes later, the food was on the table. Everyone sat down. The kids were already digging into the rolls. I poured wine for Diane and Richard, even Elise. Scott sat next to me, whispering something about how good everything looked. I ignored him. Then I stood up. "I put together something special," I said. "A slideshow. Photos and videos from this year. Just little memories." Elise smiled. She loved seeing herself in pictures. Diane clapped her hands like a toddler. I hit play. The first photo was a sweet one. Our daughter holding her baby brother in the hospital. Then, pictures from birthdays, school plays, Halloween. Then it changed. A screen recording of Scott texting Elise. "I think about you every night. She's not even in my mind anymore." Elise's reply. "I think Caleb suspects. I told him I was just drinking too much. LOL. The room went silent. Then came the photos. One of Scott and Elise entering a motel in Monroe, heads down. One of them kissing in her car, parked in the high school parking lot, my workplace. The timestamp was clear. Then a video. Scott walking into Elise's house on a weekend. He told me he was going to the hardware store. Then a screenshot. Elise talking to Diane. "I know she suspects something. Just keep pretending like you like her. She's too stupid to do anything anyway." Then another. Diane. "She was never good enough. I honestly think Scott married her to piss me off." Elise. "Well, now he's got a real woman winky face." Diane. "You're the daughter I wish I had." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I stood quietly as every face around the table changed. Scott stood up and started stammering. Elise went white. Diane looked like she'd seen a ghost. Richard, quiet, tired Richard, stood up and said, "Turn it off." I did. Then I picked up the envelope sitting on the sideboard and dropped it on the table in front of Scott. "Divorce papers," I said. "Already filed. You'll be served Monday, but I thought I'd give you a preview. And Elise, Caleb's getting his own file. He's already packed your things." Elise looked at me, shaking. You ruined everything." "No," I said, staring her down. "You did." Diane tried to open her mouth, but I cut her off. "You'll never see your grandchildren again. Don't call. Don't text. I'm done pretending I owe any of you my peace." Then I looked at Scott one last time. "You cheated on the mother of your kids with your brother's wife. And you lied to my face every single day. You don't get forgiveness. Not today. Maybe not ever." I walked out of the room, still hearing the stunned silence behind me. And that was just the start. I stayed in a hotel that night with my kids. A cheap one-off airline drive, but it was quiet, clean, and had 2 beds and a working lock on the door. My son was too young to know what was going on. My daughter, though, she was old enough to understand something big had happened. She didn't ask questions. She just held my hand while we watched cartoons under the covers. The next morning, I turned on my phone. 30 missed calls from Scott. 11 from Diane. 4 from Elise. 1 from Caleb. I didn't answer a single one. I'd already worn my job. I might need some time off. My principal, a hard-nosed woman named Mrs. Penley, had hugged me when I told her the basics. She was the first person in months who didn't look at me like I was stupid. By Sunday night, the videos and texts from the slideshow had leaked. Caleb had posted them, not just online. He'd printed them out, blew up the screenshots, and posted them on Elise's car, all 4 windows covered. He took the video clips and emailed them to her boss at the real estate office. I didn't ask him to do any of it. He just did. She got fired 2 days later. Conduct unbecoming, they said. Bad for business. Scott didn't lose his job, but word got out. People looked at him different. His boss, a woman named Carla, stopped inviting him to work events. His phone started ringing less. He'd always thought he was one of the good guys. A family man. A loyal husband. That mask cracked. But that wasn't enough for me. There was one more layer. One more twist they didn't see coming. You see, months before I ever found out about the cheating, I'd been quietly saving. Not money. Evidence. Scott and I filed joint taxes. But I handled the paperwork. Always did. I started noticing things 2 years ago. Big purchases that weren't logged anywhere. Hotel stays in different towns. Charges from cash apps I didn't recognize. At first, I thought it was just carelessness. But once the affair came to light, I realized he was hiding income, underreporting, pocketing side jobs and never declaring them. And I had every receipt. So I filed a report. Not out of spite, but because I wasn't going down with him. I handed everything to the IRS. A month later, they opened an audit. Scott got a letter in the mail while staying with a friend. I heard from a neighbor he punched a wall when he read it. I didn't care. I had my own problems. Lawyers, custody meetings, therapy appointments for my daughter. I'd stopped talking to Diane completely. She kept trying. Left voicemails saying, "Family doesn't do this to each other." I almost laughed. What did she think she did to me? Then she crossed the line. She showed up at my school, pulled into the parking lot 10 minutes before the bell rang, and stood by the front doors, waiting for me like some crazy person. I was walking from the lot with my coworker when I spotted her. Her face was pale, no makeup, hair thrown into a messy bun. She looked 10 years older than she did at Thanksgiving. "I just want to talk," she said, stepping toward me. I didn't stop walking. She grabbed my arm. Hard. "I lost my son," she said. "I lost everything. Are you happy now?" I pulled my arm back. "You lost your son the day you laughed at your daughter-in-law, like she was trash," I said. "You raised the kind of man who cheats on his wife with his brothers. I'm just cleaning up the mess you helped create." Then I walked inside. The school called security. She was banned from campus. 2 days later, I got served. Not from Scott. From Diane. She was trying to get grandparent visitation rights. Said I was emotionally unfit to keep the kids from her. Claimed I was hostile and unstable. It made my stomach turn. I didn't wait. I filed a counterclaim. My lawyer included copies of every message Diane had sent Elise, calling me names, mocking my parenting, even joking about Scott cheating. We added the video of her laughing in my kitchen. I told the court. This woman knew about the affair. She encouraged it. She helped her son betray his family. And now she wants access to my kids. The judge agreed. Case dismissed. But that wasn't the end of it. Caleb started acting weird. Not angry. Quiet. Off. One day he called me. "I think she's pregnant," he said. "Elise?" I asked. He didn't answer. I sat on the edge of my bed and closed my eyes. She said it was mine, but the dates don't line up. She was still sleeping with Scott then. I felt a wave of nausea. He sighed. "I don't know what to do." I didn't have an answer. I was already drowning in legal fees and therapy bills. Now this. It felt like Elise was a sickness, infecting every branch of this family. But there was one thing I could do. I took a paternity test from one of those home kits and mailed it to Caleb's address, already filled out. I told him, "You have to know the truth, even if it hurts." 3 weeks passed. Then I got a text from Caleb. "Not mine. Yours." I texted back. "Not mine." He didn't reply, but I knew what that meant. Elise was pregnant, and it was Scott's. After Caleb's text, I didn't sleep for 3 nights straight. I knew what was coming next, or at least I thought I did. But when the email came in from my lawyer, I realized I'd underestimated them again. Scott was filing for joint custody of my kids, not just visitation. He wanted week on, week off full custody. In the petition, he claimed I was emotionally vindictive, interfering with the children's relationship with their father, and engaging in behavior meant to alienate them from their paternal family. The nerve. This man had lied to me, humiliated me in front of everyone I knew, slept with his brother's wife, and now wanted to rip the kids from me for half the month? No. I met with my lawyer, Angela, the next day. She sat across from me, flipping through the paperwork. "This is aggressive," she said. "They're playing dirty." "I can handle dirty," I said. Angela raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" I was. But it still hit me hard. See, when you're in the thick of divorce, you keep telling yourself it's about fairness, about getting what's owed. But custody fights? They're a different beast. They make you question everything. Your worth, your sanity, your ability to protect your own children. But I had something Scott didn't. My daughter. She was 9, old enough to speak for herself, old enough to know what her father had done, not just to me but to our home, our family. When the court ordered a family evaluation, I prepared my daughter the best I could. I didn't coach her. I didn't tell her what to say. I just told her the truth. You say whatever's in your heart, whatever makes you feel safe. She nodded. When the evaluator came, we cleaned the apartment. I baked cookies. I tried to act like everything was normal, even though my hands shook every time I poured a glass of water. My daughter did fine. She answered questions clearly. She smiled a lot. But there was one thing I heard her say from the hallway when the evaluator asked, "Do you feel safe with your dad?" Her answer came quick. "Not really." The evaluator paused. "Can you tell me why?" She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Because he lies a lot. And when he gets mad, he says stuff he doesn't mean. And he cried in front of me once and said I was the only reason he didn't hurt himself. I don't think that's okay." I felt like the air had been punched out of me. He said that to her? My 9-year-old? That became part of the case. The evaluator's report noted emotional immaturity, manipulative language, and a lack of appropriate boundaries on Scott's part. The judge didn't award him joint custody. He got supervised visits every other weekend, for now. But the drama didn't stop there. 1 week later, Scott showed up at my apartment at 10 p.m., banging on the door. I looked through the peephole. He was drunk, red-eyed, sweating. "I just want to talk," he slurred. I didn't open the door. He started yelling about how I ruined everything, how I brainwashed his daughter, how Elise had trapped him with a baby he didn't even want. Then I heard him say something that made my knees go weak. "I should have left you when Elise begged me to." I called the police. By the time they arrived, he was sitting on the sidewalk crying. They didn't arrest him, just gave him a warning. But the incident went on file, and I made sure the court saw the report. His supervised visits were paused. But now Elise was back in the picture, visibly pregnant. She sent Caleb divorce papers 2 days after the paternity test results came back. Then she messaged me on Facebook. All it said was, "You don't deserve to raise those kids. You're toxic and obsessed with revenge. Everyone sees it now." I didn't respond. She messaged again. "When this baby's born, they'll have a sibling. You don't get to erase that. You're not God." I blocked her. But then came the real twist. A woman named Tanya messaged me out of the blue. Her name sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it. "Hi, I don't know you, but I think you need to see this. I've been talking to Scott for a while. He told me he was single and said he had a crazy ex-wife who was trying to take his kids. I just found out you were married. Please tell me this isn't true." She attached a photo. It was him, smiling in a booth at a diner with her, holding her hand, his arm around her shoulder. I stared at the screen for a long time. Scott was cheating again, while fighting for custody, while Elise was pregnant with his child, while telling the court I was mentally unfit to raise kids. He was out there pretending to be a single dad, lying to some stranger like he hadn't just blown up his life. I didn't respond right away. I took a breath, then asked Tanya to send every screenshot she had. She did. Over 60 texts, photos, even a video of him saying, My ex is nuts. I'm just trying to be happy for once. I thanked her and forwarded it all to Angela. We added it to the case file. Angela said, "He's digging his own grave." But it still didn't feel like enough. This man had torn me apart, lied to my face every night for a year. He humiliated me. He betrayed our kids. And he was out there doing it again. I knew there was one thing I had to do. I picked up the phone and called Richard, my father-in-law. He hadn't spoken to me since Thanksgiving. Stayed silent. Didn't pick sides. When he picked up, he sounded tired. "Hello, it's me," I said. A pause. I figured, "I have something you need to see. I don't want to be involved." "This isn't about being involved," I said. "This is about doing right by your grandchildren and about your son needing help." He didn't speak, so I kept going. "I'm not calling to beg. I'm calling because the man your wife raised is spiraling. He's lying, drinking, cheating again, and he's dragging everyone down with him, including a new baby who didn't ask for any of this." Still silence. Then finally, "Text me what you've got." I did. 2 hours later, he messaged back, "I'm coming to talk to him. Alone. Thank you for telling me." I don't know what he said to Scott, but that night, Scott messaged me. Just 4 words. "You really did it." After Scott's text, "You really did it," I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The pieces were already falling. Within a week, I got a message from Richard asking if we could meet. Just me and him. No Scott. No lawyers. Just us. We sat in a small coffee shop in Shreveport, in a corner booth that smelled like old wood and burnt beans. He wore a jacket that didn't fit him right. His hands shook when he took a sip of coffee. He looked older than I remembered. We hadn't talked face to face since before Thanksgiving. "I failed him," he said quietly, without even looking at me. "I failed all of you." "You didn't cheat," I said flatly. "No, but I didn't stop it either. I let Diane run the show. I let her poison every woman Scott brought home. When he married you, I actually thought, this might be the one who breaks the cycle. And then I stood by while she laughed at you in your own kitchen." His voice cracked a little on that last part. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked. "Because I'm leaving her." I blinked. "What?" "Diane." I told her I'm done. I packed a bag, signed over my half of the house. She can keep the furniture and her pride. I don't want any of it. I just stared at him. I told Scott he needed help. I said if he didn't get sober, if he didn't stop lying to every woman he touched, I was done with him too. Did he listen? I asked. He shook his head. "Not yet." But I meant it. I'm not protecting him anymore. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was something. A crack in the concrete. And in the weeks that followed, the crack spread. Elise gave birth in late April. A girl. Named her Shelby. Scott didn't show up to the birth. He was too busy chasing Tanya, the woman he cheated on Elise with after cheating on me. Tanya blocked him 2 days after the baby was born. Then Elise posted something public on Facebook that made every last family secret spill into the open. To the man who fathered my child, cheated on me, lied to the court, and ghosted us the minute I went into labor. You don't deserve the title of father, or husband, or man. I hope every woman you fooled wakes up. She attached screenshots. Texts from Scott begging her to let him come over just to talk. Another text where he called Shelby a mistake. Another where he asked if she could raise the baby without dragging him into court. People from town started commenting. Some said they always knew something was off about him. Others just watched the drama, like it was a show. I didn't comment. I didn't need to. That post got over 500 shares, and the fallout was swift. Scott's job asked him to take a leave of absence. Bad press, they said. He spiraled. His supervised visits with our kids had already been paused after his drunk outburst at my door. Now, after Lisa's post went viral, the court got involved again. My lawyer filed to terminate shared custody altogether. We submitted everything. His behavior, the new texts, his total absence from Shelby's life. The judge ruled in my favor. Full custody granted. Supervised visits only if he enrolled in rehab and completed 6 months of counseling. He didn't show up to the hearing. That summer, my daughter asked me, "Will we ever have a normal dad again?" And I told her the truth. "I don't know, but I promise you'll always have a strong mom." She nodded and didn't ask again. Diane tried to file again for grandparent rights after Lise posted those texts. She said I was blocking family connections. We countered with proof she had harassed me, threatened me, and enabled Scott's behavior from the start. The court tossed the case immediately. She tried to get Richard to come back. He refused. He moved to Baton Rouge, near his sister. Sent birthday cards to the kids. Quiet ones. No big letters. Just small signs he was trying to be better. Elise moved in with her cousin in Houston and stopped answering Scott's messages. He posted a Facebook Live in July crying about how everyone turned against him and how women were cruel. Someone screen recorded it and sent it to me. I didn't watch the whole thing, just enough to see the man who once laughed in my face cry alone in a room full of beer bottles. Tanya, she ended up filing a restraining order. He wouldn't stop showing up at her job, at her apartment, trying to explain. It was like watching him burn every bridge he ever walked across. But the truth? That wasn't satisfying. Not really. Because I wasn't out to destroy him anymore. I didn't care about revenge at that point. I just wanted peace. It came slow, in pieces. The first night, I tucked my kids in without checking my phone, wondering what court date was next. The first time I walked into a grocery store and didn't flinch seeing someone from the Reynolds family. The first time my daughter brought home a drawing from school labeled me and mom and said, "I'm glad it's just us." Those were the wins. Small, but real. I still see Caleb sometimes. We exchange photos of the kids. We don't talk about Elise. He's quiet, working, trying to rebuild his life. He lost his home, his marriage, and his confidence, but not his spine. And as for Scott, last I heard, he was back in Bossier, living in someone's guest room, fighting another court case. This one from a woman claiming he borrowed money and never paid her back. Every now and then, he sends an email. No subject line, no real message. Just short, sad things like, "I miss them." Do they ask about me? I'm sorry. I never reply, because forgiveness doesn't mean opening the door again. Sometimes, it just means closing it without slamming it and walking away. And I did. I walked away with my kids, my peace, and my name. Not a fling. Not a joke, not a mistake he forgot to kick out, but a woman who kept every receipt and made them pay for every damn one.